Alright, let's look over all the Thomas movies I've reviewed so far. Thomas and the Magic Railroad was definitely a good first movie, but needed some work in some places. Calling All Engines definitely needed a lot of work in a lot of places, but overall was okay as a 60th anniversary special. The Great Discovery, definitely the best model series special, and is definitely great. Hero of the Rails is a good way to start off the CGI era of Thomas, but needed a lot of work in some places. But, seeing how good this movie is, you'd think that the next movie would be pretty good too, right? Get in there, you stupid piece of trash, and don't come out!
Well, guess I better get this over with. Good morning, everybody. This is the TSMU fan here. Today, we'll be reviewing one of the worst movies in the history of Thomas, Misty Island Rescue. Boy, is there a lot of things wrong with this movie. But anyways, let's get started and dive into the lowest point of the Thomas specials. Now, since there is so much wrong with this movie, I'm actually going to make things a little bit more interesting and change up the style. Instead of talking about all the bad things first, let's start by discussing what is actually good in this movie. What did this movie do right? Well, let's start off by discussing what might be the best thing about the movie. Its plot. The plot of this movie is that Joby Wood is needed to build the new search and rescue center on the island, and while Thomas is traveling to the mainland, he floats away from the ship he was attached to and finds himself on Misty Island. While there, he meets three engines called Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand, who have become some of, if not the most hated characters in the Thomas series. While Thomas is trying to get back home, everyone else is looking for Thomas, and Sir Topham Hatt is very worried about what might have happened to his number one engine. Thomas finds out that some Joby wood is located on Misty Island, and Thomas now has to try to get the logs back to Sodor. Now, I will say that the plot of this movie isn't bad at all. It's just that the movie tackles the concept in the most stupidest way possible. I mean, sure, we already have had Sir Topham Hatt worried about Thomas in The Great Discovery, but I feel that for this movie, the situation is much more dire. In The Great Discovery, Thomas was on Sodor the whole time he was lost, but this time, he's on a brand new mysterious island that is far away from Sodor. Another thing that was really well done here was the music. I mean, just listen to the opening theme. It might sound like the Pirates of the Caribbean, but the music here is amazing. My favorite piece is when Hero is telling Thomas about the Joby wood. I also kind of like the Misty Island Rescue song, and it really captures the feel of Misty Island. Speaking of that, let's talk about the location of the special itself. Misty Island looks really cool, and I love how old everything looks. The old wooden logging buildings remind me of something like the Cedar Creek mine ride at Cedar Point. Everything being shrouded in mist also makes the location look a whole lot more mysterious, and the atmosphere is great. As for stuff like the Shake Shake Bridge, well, I'll get to that. But anyways, another thing that I really liked was the inclusion of Diesel 10 at the end of the special. Seeing Diesel 10 for the first time in CGI was so amazing, and the voice actor who plays him, Matt Wilkinson, gets the voice for him spot on. He sounds more evil and cunning in this movie than he does in Magic Railroad. I also really liked how the ending scene was foreshadowing the next special to be released, Day of the Diesels. I cannot say enough how good of a decision this was, as it really gives off this mysterious feeling of it's not over yet and leaves you wanting more. Overall, it was great to see Diesel 10 here, and I absolutely loved how clever the reveal of him was. I also liked how concerned Sir Topham Hatt is for Thomas, and that last line of his when he finally finds him is such a nice line. It really shows how much Sir Topham Hatt cares about each and every one of his engines. People on the surface might call him some sort of dictator who bricks engines and tunnels when they don't behave, but I say there's a lot more to him than that. He's a dedicated husband who will stop at nothing to attend his wife's birthday party, and he also cares so much about the well-meaning of his engines. There's also a total number of 2 funny moments in this movie. This one,
Diesel has come to say goodbye and good luck, Thomas.
Goodbye, Thomas.
And
Good luck, Thomas.
and this one.
you
can't build your office here, sir. It's the entrance to the old Misty Island tunnel. It's all blocked up. So, we used to take garbage down there.
I don't have time to worry about an old tunnel, Whiff. Good night.
Again, the humor here is brilliant, and I definitely think that the first scene is better than the second one. What else works in this movie? Well, I have to give props to the writers for giving Whiff a major role. Whiff was always such an interesting character to me, and I love how we really get to see more of his character in this movie when it wasn't really established in the episodes prior. He can be really serious when he wants to, and he also cares so much about finding Thomas and bringing him home safely. How Whiff knows about the Misty Island tunnel, though, is beyond me. Maybe he was the engine that was lost on Misty Island, who knows? Well, I think that just might be it for all the good qualities of this movie. So, let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. Let's discuss the negatives of this special. Grab some popcorn and get comfortable, cause we're gonna be here a while. Alright, here we go. The worst aspect about this movie, without a doubt, is the rhyming dialogue. Holy crap! It's absolute torture! Thomas 1 Edward 2 Henry 3 decided to count how many times it rhymed in his review of the movie, and he counted a grand total of 51 times. 51 is too much! This is, without a doubt, one of the best examples of just how bad the rhyming dialogue was. Another thing that absolutely did not work was the fact that if Thomas had just waited for another boat, or if Sir Topham had made some more room on the boat for him, the whole movie wouldn't have happened. And you know what's even worse? Gordon, Edward, and James were on a boat to rescue Thomas. So Thomas couldn't find a space on his boat, but yet somehow Gordon, Edward, and James can have a boat all to themselves? Good gosh, Miller, what are you doing? I also noticed that in the movie, we never see Gordon pulling the express. Not even once. Instead, we see him hauling trucks to the quarry with Toby to collect slate, traveling to Whiff's waste dump to have Sir Topham Hatt inform Whiff that Thomas is missing, and we see him journey to Misty Island to search for Thomas. If Gordon was doing all that, then who the heck was pulling the express? You know, the very important train that carries people around the island?
Oh, the indignity.
Oh, the indignity is right, Gordon. This is just awful. Another thing that I noticed was that there seems to be no people on Misty Island. If this is the case, how? Just how do Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand have drivers that drive them around? How are Old Wheezy and Hee Haw operated? Is Thomas's driver with him when he's on Misty Island, or was he on the boat? There are so many questions that this topic brings up. The importance of crews gives that feel of realism that Thomas has. Even in Thomas Comes to Breakfast, it highlights the importance of having engine crews, as without them, who's going to stop an engine from getting into a horrible accident? Another thing I noticed is that, like Hero of the Rails, the dialogue is very simple and isn't too in detail. Come on, at least try to put more detail in. Adding complex details makes the story more interesting, and here it just feels like they aren't even trying. Also, like Hero of the Rails, Thomas and Percy are handled in the most surface level way possible. Percy is not just Thomas's friend. Just watch something like Thomas, Percy, and the Coal, or Thomas and the Tuba, and you'll see what I mean. I'm not saying that Percy shouldn't have cared about Thomas being lost on Misty Island. I just feel like they were trying to work on that surface level quality of them always being friends somehow, and it just does not work at all. Another thing I noticed from watching the movie is that Hero says that the Joby wood is apparently from his country, Japan. If that's the case, how the heck does Misty Island have the same exact type of tree on it? Even if Misty Island just so happens to have the Joby wood, which is also extremely convenient, some plants require very specific living conditions, and as such, I don't think that the trees would be doing too well so far from Japan. My gosh, was this all here just for plot convenience? I also didn't like how unrealistically everything was treated either. I mentioned the Shake Shake Bridge earlier, and I think that this is basically the equivalent of that flimsy track bridge in the mine in The Great Discovery. How the heck is that bridge not broken yet? It's not safe! I also didn't really like how Diesel was handled. Diesel has always been such an interesting and sneaky character in the model series, and around the 6th season or so, Diesel just turned into a boring and bland bully, and this is still true to this day. I mean, if you're going to do something with Diesel, handle it like how Blue Mountain Mystery did, but I'll get to that when we talk about Blue Mountain Mystery. What else is wrong? Well, not much, but I've noticed that while watching the movie, I just feel extremely bored. That is something really bad, as movies should always grab your attention with interesting plot twists and character development that really makes you think about the characters in the movie. This movie, on the other hand, does literally the bare minimum. Movies like Magic Railroad and Hero the Rails put you on the edge of your seat with their intense chase scenes. Calling All Engines brings back characters we haven't seen in a long time and is willing to expand on the Steamies vs. Diesel's plot. And The Great Discovery was really great in that it did things that hadn't been done before, like having Thomas go missing in a mine or finding an old abandoned town, Toby's Discovery style. This movie, however, just brings to the table annoying rhyming dialogue, extremely unrealistic scenarios, and just leaves you waiting for the movie to end. Another thing I noticed is that Thomas is a huge jerk to Diesel in this movie.
No, Diesel! I'm sure Sir Topham Hatt means a really useful steamy. You'll never be that.
What the heck, Thomas? That's racist! No, wait, they're trains, so would it be trainist? Jeez, is this movie bad or what? Well, I think that might just be everything bad that I wanted to mention here. But before I move on to the miscellaneous things that I noticed in the movie, let's talk about the new characters, Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand. Well, you'd probably expect this, but I hate them just as much as everyone else does. They are just too crazy in this special, and they even try to pick up Thomas and throw him in the water along with the Joby would. I am so glad that they don't appear anymore. If they returned, I swear I would stop watching the show, especially considering the direction it's taken. Ferdinand saying, "That's right," all the time was really annoying, especially considering he says it 17 times!
That's right. 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 That's right.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Shut up! But as much as I hate the characters, I will say that the way they were revealed was very clever with the suspenseful music and the buildup of Thomas stopping at the junction and finding them there. Anyways, that's really all that I have to say about Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand. They're just boring, bland, one-sided characters that are only in the movie to affect the plot and nothing more. Now, let's move on to the miscellaneous things I noticed in the movie. The biggest thing that I noticed from looking on the wiki was that the Joby in Jobywood comes from the Japanese word for birthday, and that this could be a reference to the 65th anniversary of the franchise. Well, if this special was supposed to be a 65th anniversary special, it did not do well at all, and has become one of the most despised Thomas movies ever next to Big World, Big Adventures. I mean, even the Royal Engine and Calling All Engines do a better job at celebrating an anniversary than this. Another thing I noticed by looking on the wiki was that in the shot of Diesel 10 looking down at the Sodor engines, if you look really closely, you can see that one of the hoses that leads to Pinchy is taped up. This indicates that this is the hose that Mr. Conductor cut to escape from him and Thomas and the Magic Railroad. So to all the people who say that Thomas and the Magic Railroad isn't canon, how do you explain that? Speaking of Diesel 10's scene, apparently it was a last-minute decision made by Nitrogen Studios to include it in the movie. Well, if that's the case, I give them a lot of credit for doing that, as it really gives that surprised feeling of seeing Diesel 10 again for the first time since Calling All Engines, and if we're talking cameos, then the first time since The Great Discovery. Speaking of Diesel 10 and the special in general, he was originally voiced by Rupert Degas, and wow, he does a pretty good job.
You'll be laughing on the other side of your boilers soon, silly steamies. Yes.
But to be honest, I actually kind of prefer Matt Wilkinson as Diesel 10 in this special, and I'll get to how he's portrayed in Day of the Diesels in the next review. Another thing that I noticed from watching this movie is that Diesel's horn sound in this movie is different than the one that he used to have in the classic series.
His firebox fizzed.
Cinders and ashes!
But that's really a minor issue compared to the rest of the things that were wrong in this movie. I also noticed that apparently on the Japanese DVD of this movie, there's a bonus feature called 100 Years of Wilbur Awdry. All I can say is that at least Japan tried to make this movie better and tried to incorporate some sort of way to celebrate the anniversary, in which neither other DVD does this, except for the mention of Joby Wood maybe being a reference to the 65th anniversary. I also noticed that in the US trailer it says,
Thomas fans won't believe their eyes.
well, of course! Thomas fans won't believe their eyes on how bad this movie was! Anyways, I think that's all I wanted to talk about here. But before I end the video, I've got one last surprise for you all. Since this movie was just so terribly bad, I'm going to be providing my thoughts on how this movie could have properly been handled. This is Misty Island Rescue done right. So the movie starts out pretty similarly to the way it did, with the reveal of the Search and Rescue Center. So Topham Hatt says that Joby Wood is needed to build the center, but no one, not even him, knows where it comes from. Ships drop off the wood regularly to the docks, and the engines are a bit confused as to where it might be coming from. While Thomas is waiting at the docks for his next train to be ready, Diesel comes up and says something like, I'm sure that if I work hard enough, Sir Topham Hatt will choose me to pull the Joby Wood. And then Thomas is like, you pulling a special train? That'll be the day. This of course makes Diesel angry, so he decides to take the Joby Wood to the Search and Rescue Center himself. Thomas sees him taking the Joby Wood and a chase scene unfolds just like how it did in the movie. Sir Topham Hatt is very proud of Thomas for rescuing Diesel. Now, in the movie, Sir Topham Hatt sends Thomas to a search and rescue center on the mainland. I don't exactly like the idea of that all that much, so we're gonna fix it. Instead of sending Thomas to the mainland to see a search and rescue center there, he sends Thomas to the mainland to have him find out where the Joby Wood is coming from. Spencer is being loaded into a ship to be taken to the mainland, and Sir Topham Hatt wants to send Thomas on the same ship, but the dock manager comes up to him and says that there won't be enough room for Thomas on the ship if Spencer was also on it. So Sir Topham Hatt makes a decision and takes Spencer off the boat, and we get one last Thomas and Spencer interaction, hero of the rails style. So Thomas is put on the boat and everyone says goodbye to him as he sails away. While Thomas is at sea, the mist rolls in and the captain of the boat can't see where he's going, so he accidentally drops Thomas off at Misty Island thinking it's the mainland. This way, we've written in the crazy concept of Thomas getting lost at sea, and we've made it more realistic and not a total plot hole. So obviously, Thomas is very confused as to where he is, and he tries to look around for a way back to Sodor. While he's looking around, the logging locos are revealed the same exact way as in the movie, but Thomas doesn't say who's there every time he hears them. He eventually finds them at the junction like he did, and the logging locos are a lot less annoying in my version than they are in the actual movie. Ferdinand doesn't say, "That's right," all the time, and Bash and Dash don't finish each other's sentences. So obviously Thomas doesn't trust the logging locos since he's never met them before, but as he puffs around Misty Island, he stumbles onto the logging center and sees Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand hard at work. Thomas realizes after seeing them work so hard that he shouldn't have been so rude to them, so he goes down to them to apologize and asks them for help back to Sodor. The logging locos don't want to help Thomas like in the actual movie, but as Thomas follows them around, he suddenly realizes that the logs they are loading are Joby logs. Thomas realizes that the Joby Wood comes from Misty Island and tells Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand about the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. After hearing about it, they change their minds and decide to help Thomas. While Thomas is on Misty Island, everyone on Sodor is looking for him, and Sir Topham Hatt is very worried about Thomas just like he was in the original. So as Thomas, Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand are loading the logs, they show Thomas around Misty Island. Now, let me just say that I don't think that the idea of the Shake Shake Bridge is bad. It's just that it's handled in such an unrealistic way that makes me angry. So, in my version, the Shake Shake Bridge bridge, it's just a regular trestle bridge. And the logging locos say that if you cross it at a very certain time of day, it'll give you good luck. So when the logs are finally all loaded up, Thomas finds a tunnel on Misty Island that leads to Sodor. He decides to go through the tunnel, but the rock slide blocks the way like in the original. Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand tell him to puff 3 times like he does in the movie. Percy sees the smoke, signals, and fetches Sir Topham Hatt. He immediately sends Henry, James, and Edward to Misty Island. In the actual CGI series, I don't think we ever see Henry on Misty Island, and that would be such a good decision because in a way it's sort of like a callback to Henry's Forest. This way, Gordon can stay on the island pulling the express like he's supposed to. While Henry, James, and Edward are sailing to Misty Island, Whiff and Percy go through a tunnel they find near the Search and Rescue Center, which Whiff thinks leads to Misty Island. They find out that the tunnel is blocked off, but then they hear a very familiar whistle on the other end of the rock slide, so they back up and knock the wall down. Percy is happy to see Thomas and almost cries like he does in the movie. Just then, Bash, Dash, and Ferdinand see Whiff and they say, "Whiff, is that you?" Revealing that Whiff was the engine that was lost on Misty Island in Salty's story. Whiff tells a shocked Thomas and Percy about his experience with Misty Island and how after he returned, he was allowed to take garbage down to Misty Island until the tunnel was declared as unsafe and bricked up. So Whiff and Percy return Thomas to Sodor, and everyone who's at the Search and Rescue Center at the moment, preferably Rocky and Harold, have a nice reunion. Just then, Percy remembers that Sir Topham Hatt, Henry, James, and Edward are all on Misty Island looking for Thomas. So Thomas heads back through the tunnel and tracks them down like he does in the movie. Everyone returns to Sodor and the logging locos stay on Sodor to help build the Search and Rescue Center. After it's complete, Thomas and Whiff say goodbye to them as they puff back through the Misty Island tunnel. The tunnel is left open and is cleared of the rock so that if they ever need any more Joby wood, they can easily access Misty Island to get it. The movie ends. This would have been such a better way to handle this movie than for everything that would happen to be so crazy and unrealistic. Well, with that done, I'll end this review here. This movie was extremely bad, but you know what? That's actually a good thing, as it provides more opportunity for growth so that you can learn from your mistakes and become better. Therefore, Misty Island Rescue might not have been perfect, but it was definitely a great example of how not to treat Thomas. Anyways, that's it for this video, and be on the lookout for my review on Day of the Diesels coming up next. This is the TSMU fans signing out.